All right, class, here's another video to help you with your final project. There will be one of the questions that will ask you to use a chi-squared test of independence, and where you're actually looking to answer the question of whether there's a significant relationship between handedness and gender. And you'll notice in that question, the way the data was presented to you is through a contingency table rather than just through individual values and raw data that we had seen on the other problems. So I will show you first of all how to enter the data in a table format like this, and then how to get SPSS to conduct a chi-squared test of independence when the data is presented in table format. All right, so just as a hypothetical example, here's my contingency table. And so suppose my question is there a significant association between gender and their preferred type of therapy? And just assume that I've done some sort of survey and asked both males and females whether they prefer individual or group therapy and gotten these results. Okay, so first off is we will go into SPSS, make sure that you are in variable view, and the way we're going to want to enter the data. First of all, I obviously had some gender information. So I will name my first variable gender. All right, so notice I've typed in gender. I then click the mouse right here to auto-populate, change my decimals down to 0, and since gender is a nominal variable, I'll change this to nominal. My second variable, remember, was type of therapy. So I'm going to type in therapy, auto-populate, change the decimals down to 0, and type of therapy is also at the nominal level of measurement. Now, because we have a table format as our way to enter the data, then the frequencies within each cell of the table are going to be important. And what that means is I need to now type a variable called frequencies or frequency, and then auto-populate that. And once again, those are not going to be decimals. Those will be whole numbers since they are frequencies, number of occurrences. And then down here under the measure, I will put scale. Okay, that is how you're going to enter the data. Now, when you go into data view, oh, actually, sorry, one more thing. Okay, because gender, there are two subcategories, male and female. I need to click the label section, and then I will also say gender here, and then click the values, and click on this. And since there are two genders, I'm going to give the value 0 to males, so I'll type 0, type male, click add, type 1, click female, and click add, and click OK there. With therapies, I'm going to type in the label of therapy, click in the values column, and there are also two types of therapy, so I will call individual 0, add that. And the value of 1 will go to group therapy. Add that. And then click OK. All right. Once you've entered this data completely like that, you will now go into data view, and we will enter the numbers. Now, this gets a little bit tricky because, as you know, we had really 4 cells of information. So I'm going to type down 0, 0, 1, and 1. And that's because I have 2 cells that involve males, which is why I have the 2 zeros here. And I had 2 cells that involve the females. All right. My therapies are going to go 0. And what the 0, 0 means, based on the way I had coded it earlier when I was in variable view, the 0, 0 means I'm talking about males who prefer individual therapy. Then I need males who prefer group therapy. Then I need females who prefer individual therapy. And then I need females who prefer group therapy. So it is very important that you remember how you coded things, whether you coded them with zeros or ones, so you'll make sure that you match up the frequencies appropriately. So that this first group are my males who preferred individual. I had the number 77 in my cell back when I had showed y'all my original back when I showed y'all this, males with individuals were 77 people. Males with group were 52. So you'll see that I'm going back and typing in 52 here. My females who preferred individual were 61 females, and my females who preferred group therapy was 71. All right, now this is a very important step. You must tell SPSS that you are going to weight your variables with frequencies. What you need to do for that is click on Data up here, and you're going to go down to the very bottom where it says Weight Your Cases, and your frequency variable, make sure the button is clicked that says Weight Cases By, and you're going to weight the cases not according to gender. You're going to weight your cases by their frequencies. So remember, to get here, I clicked Data, Weight Cases. Then I'm going to click OK. And now I'm actually going to be ready to do the chi-squared test. So to do the chi-squared test, I'm going to click on Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and you're going to come down here to Crosstabs. So Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Crosstabs, click on that. Remember your row variable, if you think about what the table looked like, my row variable was gender and my column variable was therapy. That's going to be important to remember. So my row variable is gender and my column variable is therapy. Then, I don't need anything else there. I'm going to click on Statistics tab. Chi-squared may not be checked, but make sure it goes, you go ahead and get that checked. If you were to need anything else like your coefficients or your phi and Kramer's V that was discussed in your homework, then you would check that off, although in your project you're not going to need all of that. So there's no need really to click on all of that unless you needed it. But it's good to see that SPSS will calculate all of these things for you that you had been doing probably by hand when you had been doing your homework. Then you're going to click Continue and click OK, and here will be your output. Now you'll notice that SPSS, based on the way you clicked in the information, knows that this is what your table basically looks like. All right, remember it looks pretty much just like the table I showed you at the beginning, except for it has the row and column totals already made out now. What's going to be important is this chi-squared test result table right here, and really the main thing that's important is just this first top row where it says Pearson chi-squared. This value right here, 4.756, is your chi-squared test statistic. Remember, you had been calculating that through your homework by using your formula where you looked at the observed minus the expected frequencies over the expected, and you did your sums. This is your chi-squared test statistic. You've got 1 degrees of freedom, and that's, of course, based on the formula where you took the number of rows minus 1 multiplied by the number of columns minus 1. And how you're going to make your decision. You can either use your chi-squared tables from the text and figure out the critical value and then compare the 4.756 to it. Or you can look at your p-value. And remember, I've told you in previous videos that your p-value are these sig columns. The one you're going to want right here is just the 0.029 because it corresponds with your chi-squared results on the top row. So remember, when your p-values, this is called p-value, when your p-values are less than 0.05, then you have enough evidence to reject the null. So in this case, with your chi-squared test of independence, your null basically is saying that there is no relationship between the variables, and your alternative, or HA, is saying that there is an association or relationship between the two variables. So when you get a p-value here that's lower than 0.05, then in your project, you're going to want to say that since my p-value is 0.029, and that's less than 0.05, that you reject the null, and then you have to give your conclusion in context. So if you do get a low p-value like this, then you're going to reject the null and then say that I conclude, or I have enough evidence to say that there is a relationship between gender and type of preferred therapy. Now, of course, your conclusions are going to be based on gender and whether someone's left or right-handed, so gender and handedness. But mine was just hypothetically looking at gender and therapy preference. So since my p-value is 0.029 and that's less than 0.05, I reject the null, and I have enough evidence to say that there is a relationship between gender and type of preferred therapy. And there are ways that we could then look down here and realize that if you look at our table, and since blue right here is individual therapy and green is group, that we can see that males tend to prefer individual therapy and that females tend to prefer group therapy. So that's even more specific, just elaborating on the association that we're seeing between gender and type of preferred therapy. So that should help you with your chi-squared problem on your final project.